At my parents' 20th anniversary dinner, my mom stood up in front of everyone and announced that my younger sister had a crush on my husband. I froze. My husband choked on his drink. And my sister? She went pale as if the ground had just opened beneath her. Stay with me while I tell you exactly how that night changed everything for me. If my story makes you feel something, I'd love it if you could show some support. Drop a like, share it, or even subscribe so more people can hear stories like mine. The evening had started out beautifully. My parents, Denise and Gerald, had been married for 20 years, and they wanted to celebrate big. The restaurant was elegant, soft jazz playing in the background, the air filled with the smell of roasted chicken and buttered rolls. Everyone was dressed up, my mom in a shimmering navy gown, my dad in his best suit, my younger sister Kayla in a pale pink dress, and me, sitting proudly with my husband Rashad by my side. The dinner went on with laughter, champagne toasts, and stories about my parents' early years together. I felt grateful, almost lucky, surrounded by family. Rashad squeezed my hand under the table, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Then my mom rose from her chair, glass in hand, smiling like she had a secret. She tapped her fork gently against her glass and said, "Before we toast, I have something funny to share." Her voice carried across the room, pulling everyone's attention. And then she said it, clear as day. "Our Kayla has a little crush on Rashad." The whole table went quiet for half a second before laughter erupted. My uncle chuckled, my cousins grinned, and even my dad gave a nervous smile. "Oh, Denise, you always say the wildest things," one of my aunts teased. But my body locked up. I couldn't even force a laugh. My eyes darted to Rashad, who coughed and nearly spilled his drink. Then I looked at Kayla. Her smile had vanished. Her lips trembled as her face drained of color. Everyone brushed it off like it was a harmless joke, but my chest tightened. I forced a laugh, pretending it didn't bother me, but something in the way my sister avoided my eyes sent a chill down my spine. For the rest of the dinner, people kept joking about it. "Careful, Rashad, you've got two ladies after you now," someone teased. Rashad gave awkward laughs, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Kayla barely spoke. My mom kept sipping her wine, smug like she had just revealed something clever. On the outside, I smiled, nodded, and tried to enjoy dessert. But inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. Why did Kayla look so guilty? Why did Rashad look so uneasy? And why would my mother even say something like that in the first place? That night, as we left the restaurant, I already knew. This was the beginning of something much darker than a careless joke. In the months leading up to that anniversary dinner, I had noticed little things about Kayla that made me uneasy. She was only 24, still figuring out her life, and she often came to me for advice. But lately, she seemed to want Rashad's attention more than mine. She would drop by our apartment with excuses, bringing cookies, asking Rashad about his job, or suddenly wanting to learn about the gym routines he followed. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. Families are close, I thought. Kayla was playful by nature. When she brushed her hand against his arm while laughing at a joke, or when she sat too close to him on the couch, I convinced myself it was nothing. I didn't want to be the jealous wife, not with my own sister. So I swallowed the discomfort, smiled, and pretended it was normal. Still, there were moments that stuck in my head longer than they should have. I remembered one afternoon when we were all watching a movie at my place. I had gone to the kitchen to grab snacks, and when I came back, Kayla was curled up on the sofa, her legs tucked right beside Rashad, like it was the most natural thing in the world. He looked stiff, his eyes glued to the screen, but she was giggling at something he whispered. I stood there with the popcorn bowl in my hands, unsure why my chest felt so tight. After the anniversary dinner, though, the tension only grew heavier. A couple of nights later, Rashad's phone buzzed on the nightstand while he was in the shower. Normally, I never checked his phone, but the screen lit up with a message from Kayla. My stomach dropped. It said, "Oops, wrong person. Sorry, LOL." But there was nothing in the message itself to suggest what she had accidentally meant to send. Just seeing her name there that late, past midnight, made my skin crawl. When I asked Rashad about it, he brushed it off quickly. "She probably hit the wrong contact, babe. Don't overthink it." His tone was casual, but his eyes avoided mine. I forced a smile, but something in my gut whispered that it wasn't so innocent. Then there was my mom. Denise had always been protective of Kayla, sometimes too much, but recently she had started making comments that left me confused and uneasy. She would lean over during family visits and say things like, "Kayla really admires you, Imani. Sometimes I think she admires your life too much." She would smile like it was a compliment, but the words sat in my chest like stones. Once, when Rashad wasn't around, she even said, "You better keep an eye on your sister. Girls like her, they don't know boundaries." She laughed as if it were a joke, but there was no humor in her eyes. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head. Kayla was my sister. Rashad was my husband. My mom was just being her dramatic self. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something dangerous was slowly weaving itself into my life. Something I wasn't ready to face yet. It started slowly, the kind of changes you don't notice until they're right in front of you. Rashad used to come home around 6, sometimes 6:30 if traffic was bad. But now, his late nights stretched further and further. At first it was 7, then 8, and soon it became normal to see the clock hit 9 before I heard his key turning in the lock. He would mumble something about a big project at work, kiss me on the cheek, and head straight to the shower. What I couldn't ignore was the way he smelled. Rashad never wore cologne unless it was for a special occasion, but some nights he came home with a faint scent clinging to him. It wasn't his body wash, and it wasn't mine. It was sweet floral, like something sprayed from a bottle just a little too generously. I would press my face into the pillow at night, trying to convince myself it was perfume from someone at the office, just passing by him. But the scent kept returning, stronger each time. One evening, I asked him directly, "Why are you always coming home so late?" I tried to keep my voice calm, but my hands were clenched under the table. He didn't hesitate. "Work, babe. You know we're short-staffed right now. I've been covering for others. It's nothing to worry about." His tone was smooth, almost too smooth, like he'd practiced the answer. I wanted to believe him, so I nodded, forcing myself to swallow the doubts building inside me. But then came the slip. We were sitting at breakfast one Saturday morning, and out of nowhere, Rashad mentioned Kayla's literature class. He said something about her professor being too strict with grading. I froze, my spoon hovering above my cereal. "How do you know that?" I asked carefully. Kayla had mentioned it once to me in passing, but I hadn't told him. He blinked, then gave a quick smile. "Oh, I think you mentioned it before." Except I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The way he avoided my eyes told me he realized it too. I wanted to press, to ask where the conversation really came from, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I finished my breakfast in silence, the unease tightening around me. Adding to the confusion was my mother. Denise never stopped with her comments, dropping them like little seeds she wanted to see grow. "Kayla just lights up around Rashad, doesn't she?" she'd say, chuckling like it was harmless. Or, "That girl admires him so much. She's always talking about how smart he is." It was the kind of talk that made me feel torn in half. Part of me wanted to protect Kayla. She was my sister, young, maybe confused. But another part of me was starting to wonder if my husband was encouraging it. Every look, every laugh, every late night seemed to pull me closer to an answer I didn't want to face. And for the first time, I didn't know who I could trust, my sister, my husband, or even my own mother. One quiet afternoon, Rashad had left his laptop on the dining table. I needed to send an urgent email for work, and mine was updating, so I grabbed his without thinking twice. He never minded before. I had used it plenty of times. As I typed, a small folder in the corner of the desktop caught my eye. It was labeled simply with numbers, like file_07. Something about the plain title felt odd, like it was meant to blend in. I told myself to ignore it. I wasn't the type to snoop. But my finger hovered over the mouse, and before I knew it, I clicked. The folder opened, and my chest tightened instantly. Inside were dozens of photos of Kayla. Not just the normal family pictures we all had. These were personal. Shots of her at the beach in her swimsuit, laughing with sunglasses on. Pictures of her smiling at family barbecues, zoomed in as if he had cropped everyone else out. Even selfies Kayla had only ever posted in our private family chat. Photos I had sent laughing emojis to, the ones she never shared publicly. My stomach flipped. Rashad had saved them all. Some had been edited slightly, the lighting adjusted, as though he had spent time making them look better. My hands shook as I scrolled further, and each new image felt like a stab in my chest. Then I saw the messages. A linked folder contained screenshots of texts. My breath caught in my throat as I began to read. "You always know how to make me laugh," Kayla had written once. "You deserve someone who appreciates you," Rashad replied. Another one stopped me cold. "Kayla, don't tell Imani we talked last night. She'll overthink." "Rashad, don't worry, it's our little secret." I dropped my hand from the mouse, pressing it against my forehead, fighting the nausea rising in my throat. My husband and my sister, whispering behind my back. The photos were bad enough, but the messages showed something deeper, something far more dangerous than just admiration. I wanted to believe Kayla was innocent, that maybe Rashad had pushed this on her, that she hadn't realized how wrong it was. But the texts told a different story. She wasn't just flattered, she was responding, engaging, keeping it alive. One message from her made my knees go weak. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if things were different, if you were mine. And his response, quick and cruel. Careful, don't tempt me. Tears blurred my vision as I closed the laptop. My hands were trembling so hard I nearly dropped it. I wanted to scream, to throw it across the room, but instead I sat in silence, staring at the blank wall. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It wasn't my imagination or my paranoia. It was real, written in their words and saved in his private folder. Rashad wasn't just slipping away from me, he was fixated on Kayla. And Kayla wasn't just my little sister anymore. She was part of the secret that was tearing my life apart. I went over to my parents' house one evening, the weight of what I had discovered still pressing hard on my chest. Rashad was working late again, which gave me the perfect chance. Kayla was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, her hair tied up in a messy bun like she had nothing in the world to worry about. My mother was in the kitchen humming to herself, and my father was upstairs resting. I stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment, trying to gather the strength to say what needed to be said. My voice finally came out low but sharp. Kayla, we need to talk. Now. She looked up, startled. What's wrong? She asked, her smile faltering when she saw my face. I walked closer, my hands trembling. Cut the act. I know. I've seen the messages. I've seen the pictures. Her phone slipped from her hand onto the couch, and her eyes widened. What are you talking about? She stuttered, her cheeks flushing. Don't lie to me. My voice cracked, filled with all the anger and heartbreak I'd been holding back. You and Rashad. You've been texting. You've been sneaking around. Don't you dare deny it. For a few seconds, she tried. She shook her head, her words stumbling over themselves. No, Imani, it's not like that. I would never. But then her voice broke. Her shoulders sagged, and tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered, her hands covering her face. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. What do you mean this far? Kayla, what did you do? She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes, her voice trembling. Mom said, she said Rashad was better for me than the guys I usually choose. She told me I deserved someone strong, responsible, someone like him. She kept saying I always wasted my time on losers. Her words hit me like a physical blow. Mom, I whispered, my stomach churning. She encouraged this? She told you to go after my husband. Kayla sobbed harder, nodding. I thought it was just harmless at first. Talking to him, laughing with him. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. But then, I don't know. I fell for him, Imani. I'm in love with Rashad. The room spun around me, and for a moment, I thought I might collapse. My little sister, the girl I grew up protecting, the one I used to braid hair with and share secrets with, was now crying in front of me, confessing that she loved my husband. And worse, my own mother had pushed her toward him. My throat burned as I whispered, Do you even realize what you've done to me? To us. Kayla reached out like she wanted to hold my hand, but I stepped back. The betrayal was too deep, too raw. I wasn't just losing my sister. I was realizing I'd already lost the family I thought I could trust. That night, when Rashad finally came home, I was waiting for him in the living room. The lights were low, and I sat on the edge of the couch, his laptop on the coffee table in front of me. He walked in, loosening his tie, looking surprised to see me still awake. Hey, babe, he said casually, like nothing was wrong. Why are you up? I stared at him, my chest pounding. We need to talk. He raised an eyebrow, dropped his keys in the bowl by the door, and sank into the chair across from me. Sounds serious. It is. My voice was tight, trembling with anger I could barely contain. I know about you and Kayla. For a moment, the room went completely still. His eyes flickered, just for a second, then he leaned back, sighing heavily. Imani, he said slowly, it's not what you think. Don't, I snapped. I've seen the messages. I've seen the pictures you saved. Don't you dare sit there and lie to me. He rubbed his hand over his face, then shook his head like he was the victim. You don't understand. She came to me. She's young, lost, always making bad choices. She threw herself at me. I felt sorry for her, that's all. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed bitterly, tears stinging my eyes. You felt sorry for her? Is that why you hid pictures of her on your laptop? Is that why you told her to keep secrets from me? His face hardened. You're twisting everything. If you trusted me, you'd see I love only you. Why would I risk our marriage for a silly crush your sister has? The way he said it made me feel like I was losing my mind, like I was the one imagining all of it. But the evidence was right there, undeniable. I leaned forward, my voice sharp. Don't gaslight me, Rashad. I have your words, your conversations. You told her not to tempt you. You told her things you never even say to me. His jaw clenched, and his eyes turned cold, the softness gone. You're impossible sometimes, Imani. Always doubting me. Always looking for problems where there aren't any. Maybe if you weren't so suspicious all the time, I wouldn't have felt pushed away. My stomach dropped. So now this is my fault? He stood up, towering over me, his voice rising. You drive me away with your constant nagging. Do you even hear yourself? I work, I provide, I come home to you, and all you do is accuse me. What man wants to live like that? I sat there, staring at him, realizing how quickly he had flipped it, how he had turned his betrayal into my blame. The man I thought I knew, the man I trusted, was looking at me like I was the problem. And in that moment, I understood. Rashad wasn't going to admit the truth. He was going to destroy me with lies before he ever took responsibility. I thought the hardest part was hearing Rashad twist the truth, but I was wrong. The real blow came when I turned to my mother for comfort. I had always believed that if everything else failed, at least my mom would stand by me. She had raised me, taught me to be strong, taught me what marriage meant. But when I sat across from her at her kitchen table and poured out the truth, she didn't look shocked or angry at Rashad. She looked annoyed at me. Imani, you're being dramatic, she said, stirring her coffee like I hadn't just told her my husband was betraying me with my sister. Rashad is a good man. He works hard, he's respectable. Men like him don't come around often. I stared at her, speechless. Mom, did you hear what I said? He's sneaking around with Kayla. With your daughter. With my sister. She waved her hand, dismissing my words. You've always been too sensitive. Maybe if you kept him happy, he wouldn't look elsewhere. And if he does, why shouldn't Kayla? At least she's family. Better her than some stranger. The words cut through me like glass. My own mother, choosing Rashad over me, excusing what he'd done, even encouraging it. You can't be serious, I whispered, my throat burning. You want me to accept that? That it's okay for my sister to take my husband? Her eyes narrowed. Don't act like a child. Life is not about what's fair, Imani. It's about what works. Rashad could take care of Kayla in ways those useless boys she dates never could. I told her as much. She deserves better, and if he's willing, who are you to stand in the way? I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal with a smile, with logic, with a mother's authority twisted against me. The room grew tense as my father, Gerald, came in quietly. He looked between us, his face heavy with lines of worry. What's going on here? He asked. Your daughter is overreacting, my mother snapped before I could speak. But my father's eyes lingered on me, softer, questioning. I saw it, he knew. Maybe he didn't know all the details, but he sensed the rot, the poison spreading through our family. Still, he didn't take a side. He simply said, "Let's not fight in the kitchen," and walked out, his silence speaking louder than anything else. I sat there, trembling, realizing that my mother had been pulling strings all along. She had pushed Kayla toward Rashad, whispered lies into her ears, painted betrayal as some kind of opportunity. Kayla wasn't just reckless, she had been used. And my mother, the woman I was supposed to trust, was the one holding the puppet strings. That night, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting against my own blood. After that night in my mother's kitchen, something inside me hardened. I realized that screaming, crying, or begging wouldn't change anything. My mother had chosen Rashad, Kayla had chosen to betray me, and Rashad had chosen lies over loyalty. The only choice left was mine, and I chose not to play their game. I stopped arguing. I stopped asking questions. On the surface, I became quiet, calm, even agreeable. But inside, I was planning. If they wanted to make me feel powerless, I would take that power back in silence. The first step was gathering proof. Late at night, when Rashad was asleep, I went through his phone again. Screenshots of his messages with Kayla filled my gallery. I saved the conversations, even the ones that made my stomach churn. I dug deeper into his laptop, uncovering folders he thought he had hidden. Photos, notes, even a draft email he never sent to her, saying he couldn't stop thinking about her. Each discovery burned, but I saved them all. Then I stumbled across something else, financial papers. Hidden files showed transfers I didn't know about, accounts he hadn't told me existed. Rashad had been moving money, trying to secure himself a safety net. That told me more than any text could. He was preparing to leave me eventually. I copied everything, keeping it all on a private drive only I could access. Once I had enough, I went to the courthouse quietly. Filing for divorce wasn't easy. It felt like ripping apart the life I had built with my own hands. But it was necessary. I kept it secret, moving like a shadow. No screaming matches, no warnings. If Rashad wanted war, I would fight it my way, calm, calculated, devastating. The only person I trusted enough to confide in was my father. I waited until one evening when Mom wasn't home. Gerald sat in his armchair with his glasses on, flipping through the newspaper, and I poured everything out. The photos, the texts, the way Mom had encouraged Kayla, the secret accounts Rashad had hidden. For a long time, he didn't speak. His eyes grew darker with every word, his jaw tight. Finally, he leaned forward and said quietly, "I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know it was this bad. Imani, I'm so sorry." The sound of those words nearly broke me. For once, someone in my family wasn't telling me I was dramatic or overreacting. Someone believed me. We sat together, making a plan. Not just for me to leave Rashad, but to show everyone the truth. My father suggested it. If they want to act like this is normal, then let's show them how ugly it really is. That's when we decided on the family gathering. A big dinner with relatives and friends, the kind of setting where secrets couldn't be swept under the rug. Rashad, Kayla, and Denise would walk in smiling, thinking they had won. But I would be ready. And when the time came, I wouldn't raise my voice. I would simply reveal everything and let the truth destroy them. The Sunday dinner was set up like any other family gathering, but my heart thudded in my chest the entire drive there. The table was long, filled with relatives laughing, cousins running around, and plates stacked high with food. Rashad sat across from me, smiling like everything was perfect. Kayla stayed close to him, pretending not to notice me watching. And my mother, Denise, floated around the table, greeting guests with her usual charm. But I wasn't there to play along anymore. When everyone had their food and the chatter died down just a little, I stood up. My hands shook, but my voice came out strong. "I have something to say." All eyes turned toward me. Rashad frowned, Kayla shifted uncomfortably, and Denise's smile froze. I took a deep breath and pulled out the stack of papers and printed screenshots I had brought. For months, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was paranoid, jealous, overthinking. But I wasn't. Rashad and Kayla have been lying to me. Gasps echoed around the table. I held up the first paper. Here are the messages Rashad sent my sister. Messages where he told her to keep secrets. Messages where he encouraged her. I laid them flat on the table for everyone to see. Rashad's face turned red and he muttered, "This is ridiculous." I cut him off. "Don't you dare." Kayla herself admitted it to me. She told me Mom encouraged her. That Mom told her Rashad was better for her than anyone else she dated. The room erupted in whispers and shocked stares. My aunt covered her mouth. My cousins shifted nervously. Kayla broke into sobs, her face crumpling as she cried out, "I didn't mean to hurt you, Imani. Mom told me it was okay. She made me believe it." "Stop it." Denise's voice rang sharp, her composure finally cracking. She slammed her hand on the table. "Imani, you've ruined this family with your drama. Why couldn't you just let things be?" "Let things be?" My voice rose, anger spilling out at last. "You stood by and told your younger daughter it was fine to go after my husband. You pushed her into this. You betrayed me, your own child." The tension was so thick the air felt hard to breathe. Rashad stood suddenly, his chair scraping the floor. His face was twisted in rage as he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Kayla was still sobbing, whispering apologies through her tears. "I know I crossed the line. I let it happen. I was wrong." Her voice broke, but I didn't move to comfort her. The wound was too deep. And then came the shock that silenced everyone. My father, Gerald, stood slowly, his face pale but firm. He looked at Denise with years of disappointment in his eyes. "I can't do this anymore. I won't live with a woman who manipulates her own children. Denise, I'm leaving you." The room fell into stunned silence. My mother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time, everyone saw the truth laid bare. The family they thought was strong had cracked wide open, And this time, there was no covering it up. The weeks after that dinner felt like walking through the ruins of a house that had burned down. Everything was in pieces, but in that destruction, I finally found clarity. The first step I took was the divorce. I filed the papers quietly, and because I had every screenshot, every hidden bank statement, every proof of his lies, Rashad had no ground to stand on. The house he thought he would keep? The court awarded it to me. He had tried to hide money, but I had already exposed that too. Watching him realize he had lost everything he schemed for was its own kind of justice. Denise tried to call me in the weeks that followed, but her voice no longer had power over me. The family who had once admired her charm began to turn their backs. Aunts, cousins, even her own friends stopped answering her calls. They had seen her mask slip, seen the cruelty behind the smile. My mother, who once thrived on control and appearances, ended up sitting alone in that big house with no one to impress. Isolation was her punishment, and it was one she created for herself. Kayla couldn't bear the stares, the whispers, or the weight of her choices. She packed her things and moved away, trying to escape the shame that clung to her. She texted me once, saying she hoped someday I would forgive her, but I couldn't answer. Maybe time would soften the wound, but for now, the silence was all I had to give her. And Rashad, without me, without Kayla, without the respect of the family, was left with nothing but his pride, and even that crumbled. Word spread quickly about what he had done, and his reputation soured. He moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. No more fancy dinners, no more polished charm. Just a man alone, staring at the consequences of the choices he made. Meanwhile, I began to rebuild. At first, it was strange waking up in a house that felt so quiet, but soon the quiet turned into peace. Gerald visited often, helping me with repairs, making sure I never felt alone. He told me more than once how proud he was that I had stood my ground, that I had revealed the truth when so many others would have stayed silent. His support became the anchor I needed as I pieced my life back together. I didn't need to scream, beg, or fight dirty. All I had to do was shine a light on the truth. And the truth did the work for me. It tore down the lies, the manipulation, and the betrayals. It destroyed them without me lifting more than my voice. And when the dust finally settled, I was free. She didn't need to scream or fight dirty, just reveal the truth, and the truth destroyed them. What about you? Do you believe Gerald was right to finally step away from Denise after everything, or should he have tried to hold the family together? Share your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your take. And if stories like this keep you hooked, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell so you're always the first to know when a new one drops.